Well, Israel says that while it will consider Washington's opinion before striking Iran, it stresses that its plan of attack will be based on its own national interest. The remarks come as the Middle East braces for Israel's retaliation to Iran's missile attack this month. According to a report by the Washington Post, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told the Biden administration that he is planning to strike Iranian military sites instead of nuclear and oil facilities. U.S. President Joe Biden warned against striking those targets to avoid further regional escalation as well as a global oil crisis. Over in Lebanon, residents on high alert after Mr. Netanyahu warned of more strikes on Hezbollah across the country, including the capital, Beirut. Now, the Israeli leader yesterday vowed to hit the militant group without mercy after 4 soldiers were killed in a Hezbollah strike in central Israel Sunday. Now, the UN says more than 400,000 people have been displaced in the past 3 weeks since the fighting escalated. More than 2,300 people have been killed in Israeli strikes in Lebanon so far. The United Nations has vowed not to remove their peacekeepers in South Lebanon, despite Israel's call to move them out of harm's way. 4 UN peacekeepers were injured last week after Israel fired on their position. Mr. Netanyahu, however, denied that his troops are deliberately targeting the UN mission. The UN Security Council has urged all parties to respect the safety and security of its forces. Fighting also raging in Gaza. At least 40 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli strikes across the enclave as the IDF deepens its incursion into Jabalia. The military said that the operation is aimed at dismantling Hamas's infrastructure. The UN Human Rights Office warned that Israel's operation appears to be cutting northern Gaza from the rest of the enclave. The organization adds that the IDF may be carrying out large-scale forced transfer of civilians. Well, there's a lot to talk about, and Sarah Coates joining us live from Tel Aviv. Sarah, the Israeli leader says that the country's response to Iran's missile attack will be based on national interest, while it will consider the opinion of the U.S. What does that mean, and what could that look like on the ground?
Hello there, Jill. It still is a very combustible situation, but it really does appear as though the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu may be heeding the advice of the United States to potentially limit Israel's response to Iran after this unprecedented ballistic missile attack on the 1st of October that saw these 200 ballistic missiles are shot into Israel. Now, you mentioned those reports that do suggest that he's promised not to hit oil or nuclear facilities, that he may indeed hit things like military targets that could be belonging to the Revolutionary Guards. We do also need to take into account what we've been hearing over these past couple of weeks from Israel's Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. He came out to say that this may be surprising. So we may not actually see hits, let's say, in terms of big strikes on facilities. It may be something completely different. Now, it is this softened stance that I was just talking about from Netanyahu that reportedly gave the United States that push that it really needed to deploy this THAAD system, that is the terminal, very advanced aerial defense system, to Israel, with US officials saying that parts and troops for this system will begin arriving in Israel over the coming days. Now, it has been 2 weeks since that unprecedented ballistic missile attack on Israel. We do have word as well from other US officials that say that Israel's response will come before the US election.
Interesting. So at this point, is there any more information about Israel's plans for those Hezbollah targets in Lebanon going forward?
Well, Benjamin Netanyahu actually paid a visit to that military base that was hit by a drone on Sunday night. He came out to say that Israel will continue to strike everywhere in Lebanon without mercy. Now, also over the last 24 hours, the IDF has reported that it's hit around 200 Hezbollah targets. But there is a lot of international condemnation coming in over one strike that still hasn't been commented on by the IDF. And that is a strike that was in the north, in a largely Christian city there. It hadn't been hit before. This is an area that was untouched. According to the UN, some 22 people are killed, with a spokesperson for the Human Rights Office saying that at least half of these victims were women and children. So it is certainly a very worrying situation on the ground. Also, according to the UN, at least 25% of the population in Lebanon are now displaced. Jill.
Thank you, as always, Sarah Coates, live in Tel Aviv.